Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good late night, as some people are saying. Yes, welcome to Painfully Honest Brunch. That's right. I've got all the chat up here. What do you guys think? Does that look good? It's like a new feature in Restream. Restream, the folks who sponsor these live streams that I do, and yeah, so that way I can like look at what you guys are saying and and have a better view. I do have the YouTube chat up here in my teleprompter, but we got people from all over the place watching this show. So, what is good, people? Tony is here. Ghetto butthole. It's here, Sean. Bob, of course. Jermaine, of course. No 20 Ultra is boss, of course. Uh, Kamoon, they're on. Yes, we got good people. Good people. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave the chat up there because maybe it's the way to go. I don't know. Today my title is Chief Complaining Officer, and today I'm going to probably complain about something. I don't know. I had like 100 ideas for today's live stream, and then like I don't know. Maybe it's that it's my third day in a row of doing this live stream. I'm gonna have to get used to doing daily live streams if I'm gonna do this. But yeah, I'm a little punchy today, little punchy today, but that's okay. That's okay. It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, there's been all kinds of interesting stuff going on. But before we go into any of that, I want to say thank you to all of you folks who are here right now watching. We got 50 people strong, 54 people strong, as according to this little number that's in the corner of my screen, and we're just climbing as time goes. Anybody who's watching the replay of this, thank you for watching the replay. Do comment, let me know what it is that you think about the stuff that we're talking about. And yeah, so I guess I should do a proper shout out to Restream. If you guys aren't familiar with Restream, Restream is a live streaming platform that is a web based, like you just like go on the web to a page and it gets your camera and your microphone and then you put your face on there like this. And so they have been gracious enough to sponsor the Painfully Honest live streams here this month and into the future. So I am trying to help them get some people over there. It's free, but there are paid levels as well. And yeah, you should. You should check it out. So this is the Painfully Honest Daily Show, brought to you by Restream, and also in part by your super chats and stickers and memberships. Memberships only $2, and with membership at $2, you get all kinds of stuff that I'm planning to give to you. Thank you, Capono. I appreciate it, man. Capono says I'm a good person. I needed to hear that this morning. I appreciate it. All Dad Tech in the house with the $20 super chat. He's already betting big this morning. Good morning to you. And so yeah, we got the chat is. I've got chat in two places now. It's just like flying in my face. Danny Wood's having some Painfully Honest lunch, soup and a sandwich. What kind of soup, Danny? What kind of soup? I mean, because not all soups are made the same. Well, of course they aren't, because there are different kinds of soup. So Tim's already out firing today with numbers. He's got numbers. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah, I feel like there was something I was going to say, and now I can't remember what it was. Tim in the house with the $20 super chat. So I thank you, sir. Anybody who's new here to the Painfully Honest Daily Show, once again, thank you so much for showing up. This is the third day of the new show, and I don't know. I mean, there are people who do live shows on YouTube for sure. Steven Crowder, Ben Shapiro, whose shows I don't watch, but I know they do daily shows, and I know like Joe Rogan does a daily show and then he puts it up, all that kind of stuff. So I figured I'd try it with tech. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if I can weather the storm of Oh, smartphone depreciation. I that is a good that is a really good topic. I'll stick that in the hopper for a little bit later. Um, golf shaped Joel skull. Okay. I like the name, is going crazy. Coming back to Samsung, should he stick to Apple? The S21 Ultra looks so great. It is a pretty great phone. I'm not gonna lie to you, Joel. It is a great phone, and I can't recommend it more highly. When it comes to Samsung phones, I mean, it's among my favorite Samsung phones, and yeah, I think it's really really good. Um, if you, I I say that knowing that because I'm so heavily invested in the Apple ecosystem in other aspects of my life, that I will eventually grab the iPhone again as well. Um, you should think about whether or not you're heavily invested in the Apple ecosystem and how that's going to affect your life. Like for a short period of time, I miss the Apple Watch, but in the long run, I might want the Apple Watch back. I just got contacted. That reminds me. I just got contacted and spoke to somebody yesterday from a company called 8 Sleep. It's a mattress company. There are all these memory foam mattress companies out there, but this is a mattress company that not only, does the mattress thing, but they also have some sort of like layer of the mattress. They have like the layer that you can put on an existing mattress, or they have a layer, or they have a whole mattress, and it like reads your temperature, and it's like very close to being like medical grade EKG, and detects sleep apnea, all this other stuff. It has its own app, and then the app can also send the information to Apple Health and that kind of thing. I don't know if they can do the other stuff, but um it's just really interesting. So they say they're going to send me a mattress to check out, and so I'm gonna I'm gonna do I'm gonna do a whole study to see like how terribly I sleep. So we got a $10 super chat from Fat Produce in the house. I get the feeling we're going to start seeing stagnation and actual smartphone improvements and more moves to increase margin rather than increase actual improvements in smartphones going forward. I might argue that we're like already there. If you look at what we're getting, if you look at what we're getting in terms of, one criticism I had of Samsung's S21 line this year was that yes, they dropped the price of the phones a little bit, but they took away SD card slot, they took away the charger from the box. So we're already seeing kind of like uh, a diminishing, and the prices weren't that much lower. So yeah, I think we're already seeing it, and I think we're already going to see. I think we're going to see more of it. Um, and so yes, there will be upcoming videos of me sleeping on mattresses. Uh, I will be fully clothed, or at least covered up, and but no, I'm gonna do like the whole set up the mattress thing, which is always fun. And yeah, $200 lower is a decent amount. You're right, Tim. But I mean, when you take into account how overpriced the S20 line was, I mean, we can agree that somewhere in the middle is they're doing okay. Uh, Matthew wants to know what chances that MKBHD has already been testing the mattress for 3 weeks. At this, MKBHD might be on the board of of all these companies at this point. I think he's become some kind of godfather. You just, if you can't get past him, then you can't sell your stuff. Um, Fat Produce follows up with, I would say, in camera technology, battery technology, efficiency, uh, Tim, as opposed to removing features in order to sell you the solution, or removing features and keeping the price the same. Yeah, I mean, we have a little bit of that sort of bait and switch kind of pricing thing where they take away the charger, and so that you have to buy a charger and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think we've now entered the era of nickel and diming us to death until we just I don't think that phones are going to get worse, and I do think that there will be premium phones, But as we talked about yesterday, some of those premium phones might be like the folding phones, or the phones that are sort of experimental, quote unquote, um, will be the ones that really make a huge make huge leaps forward, while the regular phones, I mean, we the regular phones will start to see diminishing returns. I mean, we already see the fragmentation of Samsung's S21 line by just the fact that the S21 Ultra is by far the better phone, in terms of all the features and stuff like that, and the S21 and the S21 Plus are just a little bit less. We got a super chat here from David Stevens. Sorry, they have it's all backwards. I changed the graphic. Sorry, David. Thank you for the $20 super chat. And he says, I think the S21 Ultra is a better design than the 12 Pro series. Sammy has a sexiness in their stuff, in my opinion. Winky O face. I you know I this is a hard one because I think that the S21 Ultra is the best looking Android phone that's come out in quite some time. And I was trying to get this out of the case and I can't get it out. Anyway, I think it's one of the better looking uh, Android phones that's come out in a long time. The Phantom Black, whatever they're calling it, is really a very cool color. Um, I do like the design of the new Apple, like the iPhone 12, 12 Pro, 12 Max, 12 Pro Max. I like that design. I'm a big fan of the more squared off look, but I will say when using like the 12 Pro Max, it did make the phone feel much bigger than I think it would have felt if it still had the rounded edges. And Apple, we've just heard rumors earlier this week that Apple's working on some kind of coating that's gonna make fingerprints not such a big deal on the stainless steel around the edges, which I think is a very good thing because there's not. I loved carrying that phone naked. However, it was always like gross, I mean, so uh, I didn't really enjoy that. So I think Apple, it's always the way, like the first year they kind of get the design going, and then they refine it, and they get more things, and they get more things right. I like them both. I would say that Samsung, is still basically hanging with the design style that they've had before. They flattened out the sides so that there's not the phantom touches when you're holding it and that kind of thing. So I agree. I think that I think that they're doing really. I think that this year Samsung did really well, and it's unfortunate that there's not going to be a Note 21 this year because I really would have liked to have seen what they did with the Note. I usually like the Note designs better. Just because they're more squared off, I guess. There's just something about that makes them look more stately. Anyway, we've got a $4.99 super chat for the Great British Pounds super chat. So that's like $7.50 or something. Uh, thank you. Thank you, Joe. What's stopping people from using their old chargers? Question mark. Plus, I think the next big focus will be cheaper foldables. So when it comes to Apple, I think one of the things that's stopping folks from using their old chargers when it comes to Apple is the fact that Apple took the charger out of the box, but they put in a USB-C to Lightning cable. And so if the majority of your customers don't upgrade every year, then you have the situation where you've got customers that have chargers with USB-A plugs and no USB-C, so they have to go buy a USB-C charger. So I think that's the problem. It's not as big a deal for Samsung because they've been using USB-C for several generations now, but that was kind of the thing with Apple. I think Apple, if I recall correctly, Apple had to do the USB-C um, on the other end of the Lightning cable to satisfy the UK, or not the UK, but the EU guidelines and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not that it's it's not that they couldn't, but most people who are just typical Apple customers wouldn't have that kind of brick. So they would have to buy something else entirely. Um, so it's just one of those things. Um, and when it comes to LG, I mean, I see the Fat Produce is down here talking about LG really needs to allow their phones to bootloader to be unlocked if they won't be supporting them any further. That's a good point. Man, I don't know. I I saw somebody. I Samsung LG has not officially announced that they're leaving the smartphone market, right? I mean, I know that they lost their Vietnamese buyer. I know that they've been on the fence. It's not really happening, but it seems like it seems like it's all said and done except for the actual saying and doing, right? Um, and that to me is that's I don't know. That sort of dovetails into the overall topic of today, which is, have Apple and Samsung sort of won the smartphone industry? Because if LG leaves, and there's LG in the U.S. has like, I think they're number 4 in the marketplace in terms of market share. If LG leaves the smartphone marketplace altogether, Pixels are not really up there. Pixels are not. I mean, maybe they will be. The 4A, the 5, whatever A series phone they have, will take the place of some of the cheaper LG phones. I don't. I don't know, because we don't have a plethora of Chinese manufacturers sending phones over here. Um, so they're not as typical. Will they become more typical? Or it's a good question. It's a good question. Um, So Andy, I don't know what the issue was between LG and the Vietnamese company that they were trying to work with. Um, but last I heard, the talks, they were going to buy their North American smartphone business, and last I heard, talks were off. So, you know, it's yeah, unfortunately, yeah, and the LG sells like the LG Stylo, and also like a lot of the cheaper phones that you can get, the ones that are like off in the corner in the in the store, or over on that other shelf in Best Buy. Uh, um, Tim's got an interesting point. Samsung should buy LG's market. Although I mean, I don't know what Samsung would. I don't know what Samsung would want from LG. I mean, LG's the second largest manufacturer of OLED panels, but I don't know if that's specifically tied to their smartphone business or not. Um, but I guess you make a good. Okay, so this logic makes some kind of sense. Maybe LG doesn't stay as the branded LG, and maybe they make cheaper phones for Samsung. Um, but But no, I don't think LG has given up the OLED TV panels. I mean, LG is in many ways like Samsung. They're a multifaceted, gigantic corporation that builds stuff for all different kinds of industries and all different kinds of consumer markets. So LG leaving the smartphone space won't be that big a deal for LG. I mean, LG, according to numbers that we saw, when this talk first started, LG's been losing, boatloads of money year after year after year on the smartphone business. And so I just don't see LG. I mean, at a certain point, you can't keep losing money. And at a certain point, your competition gets so far out in front of you that, do you have a chance to catch them, or do you at least have a chance to catch enough of the market that you can like carve out a space that makes sense for you? But if LG's lost money to the tune of like millions or billions of dollars year over year, that adds up after a while, and you have to ask yourself. They've been doing the dual screen phones. They've got the wing. They've been throwing stuff out there to see what sticks. But unfortunately, the problem with LG phones is not that the LG phones are like not good, and it's not that the LG phones don't offer something different than other phones. It's the LG phones have always been great. The problem with the LG phones has been, well, they did have some technical problems, but that was like 5+ years ago. At this point, like, LG's problem is that they aren't keeping up with updating their phones. And so if you're not getting for somebody pointed out at one point that if you're not getting security updates and you use your phone for business, then that is already a huge liability. That if you're a business person, or if you're someone who's making the decisions about what phones can be used with your business email and everything else, then LG is not an option if you're not getting consistent security updates. So, I mean, that was one thing. And then also the fact that they don't seem to have a marketing department. Uh, they don't seem to have a marketing department at all. And because when you think about it, like, I can't remember ever seeing an ad for like an LG television as well. Um, so I don't know. I don't watch a lot of TV, so or at least TV that shows commercials. So maybe I'm wrong, but it's just one of those things where LG doesn't seem to be able to get the word out about their phones. I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. If they would have marketed the V series phones hard to audiophiles, hi-fi enthusiasts, people who were ticked off that the headphone jack was gone and they wanted to keep listening to their music, then they could have had a niche there that they could have fit in, and they could have really built out from there as a niche phone. But I mean, that niche is pretty big, or at least it was when the headphone jack went away in 2017. That niche was pretty large. And now enough has happened with wireless headphones, and Apple has kind of taken over the wireless headphone industry to the point where nobody cares about wired headphones anymore. Uh, there's and the small number of people who care about wireless headphones in the whole, you know, all the people who are buying wireless headphones are buying them because they want the quality. And if it's a mobile device, then you have to say, oh, it's mobile. How much quality are you going to get out of a mobile device if you are in fact traveling and on the go? So, um, let me see here. Andy asks, "Is it true Samsung canceled Note series this year? I'm a fan of the Note series and don't want that to be happening." No, at first I thought, there was no news, there were no leaks, there was nothing about the Note series out there at all, and a lot of leakers were saying usually by this point we would have heard something about the Note series, and we're not hearing anything. So does that mean the Note series is gone? Um, but now they say they're skipping the Note this year. Whether or not, like Ant X says up here, it's going to be like not the Note 21 but the Note 22. It's it could be that that's what they're going to do. It could be that they're kicking the can down the road, and they don't want like they don't want to take the hit to their image of killing the Note series. But I firmly believe that since this phone, the S21 Ultra, has S Pen support, and the Note was always Samsung's, like, not necessarily their flagship, because I think the S series has always been the phone that the most people buy, but it's always been sort of their showcase phone, where the Note series was, we can do all this stuff. Look at what we can do. We can, when it was bigger screen or whatever, when it was the S Pen. Now they've got the folding phones, and the folding phones have sort of taken over that spot of the showcase phone. And So the Note series seems to be like the odd phone out. So I'm even though they say yes there'll be a Note in 2022, um I'm not totally convinced, you know. Um and Craig, I think that there's probably a large number of people who buy the Note phone that don't use the S Pen, but the people who do use the S Pen and that's one of the reasons that they buy that phone. The S Pen is incredibly powerful. What you can do with the S Pen is really impressive. And the more you get used to using it when you have it, you have to force yourself to break the habit of not having it. If that Can you have a habit that's not having a habit? I don't know. I've just blown my mind. Um, so let's see. I want to see what Tim was saying here. Um, I bet they're holding the Note to use the new chips with AMD. The S may continue with the Snapdragon while the Note will go back to having its own chipset again. That's interesting. I hadn't really thought of that. That's an interesting possibility, an interesting point. I'm not sure. That might be one way to go. Uh, Although, like the elephant in the room with Samsung is always the Exynos chip. Like, when are they gonna just admit that they can't make a chip that compares with the Snapdragon chips that they're putting in the phones as well, and just like be done with it? I I don't know. I don't know. At this point, I don't see I I don't see them like I don't see there any reason for there to be an Exynos chip. I don't know. Maybe other. I only hear complaints about it. So maybe people. And being in the U.S., I never get to use it. So um, then yeah, and yes, because I know it's because Samsung can make that chip. But what kind of? I mean, are they really seeing a benefit from that? Like, are they selling fewer phones because they are they selling fewer phones because the chip is inferior and they could sell more phones if they put the I don't know. It's probably got a lot to do with, as you say, Tim, that they're making it themselves. So there's some kind of um there's some kind of, I guess, efficiency in that. Um so wait, I'm trying to scroll the thing that's on the screen. I can't scroll the thing that's on the screen. um So golf shaped Joel says iPhone is just uncomplicated. At 28 years old, I'm okay with that. That's what I'm looking for. Man, thank you for making me feel like I'm ready to move into the nursing home, Joel. Because yeah, I turned 50 this year. It's crazy, but I do turn 50 this year, and it's really messing with my mind. I don't, it's embarrassing to admit that, but it is really messing with my mind that I turned 50 this year because yeah, everybody, like, there's some kind of psychology thing that says everybody has this residual idea of how old they actually are in their brain, and they see themselves as that aged person. And like, I see myself as like a 27-year-old in my brain. Uh, but it's hard to hold on to that when you know that you've got a 5 in front of your age at that point. Your mom your mom probably graduated high school the same year I did. So it's I don't want to talk about it. Um, so Capono says that the settings on Android can give me a headache. I will say that especially Samsung, like, it used to be that Samsung had to put a search feature in their settings so that you could find the setting that you want. And it's still there. It's still there. Like, you can search for it, but it's much simpler now. Like, you can find the stuff much more simply. It's kind of more like a Windows settings kind of setup, whereas it used to be just like the names that they would give the sections wouldn't necessarily be indicative of the names that you would think, and so you'd have to search for stuff. But they've done a good job with One UI 3 um, of making the settings a little bit easier to dig into and to handle. And on some levels, I'm kind of like, where's like that granular, ridiculous stuff that I used to be able to that I used to be able to get into the weeds on, Moomin has a cat rugged phone. Who makes the cat rugged phone? One of the weakest media tech chipsets of all time. Yeah, I think those phones are always interesting to me. Those phones are definitely interesting to me. We got Ivan in the house. Good afternoon to you. Yeah, I know, man. It's just there's something undeniable about that 5. You can kind of skate by on the 4, but you realize that, like, if you have that image in your brain of being like a 27-year-old, for a while after you're 27, you still can like fake being a younger person. But it gets weird when you try and fake being a younger person when you're older. so so yeah. And yes, I mean that Alejandro makes the good point that his mom's 70 and moves around like a 40-year-old. And yes, age is just a number, they tell me. 40 50 is the new 40. but pretty soon, like, 60 is going to be the new 50, and it just it doesn't work out. I need to do a better job of keeping myself healthy and exercised. This COVID season has been hard on my um, has been hard on my. I just sit here like a lump of nothing. Um, Alejandro brings up the good point that with Android, you do get into the file system, whereas you don't really get into the files. You can't get into the file system with Apple. Even after they give you a file folder, it's not really a file system. So yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Um, so Tony brings up Good Lock. Good Lock is actually where all the confusing stuff from Samsung phones went. Like, I go into Good Lock and I'm like, what do you want me to do? I don't know. It's very confusing to me. Um, I will tell you guys who are turning 30 that or have already turned 30. 30 was the worst year of my life for some reason. Like, 29 was okay, 31 was okay, but 30 was awful. Got a $4.99 super chat from Joel. First time I discovered your channel was many years ago, looking for a headset for the PS4. Look where you are now. It has been a journey. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I got a gaming headset video in the hopper right now that's coming out. I'm still trying to like, now that we got the new consoles and some new stuff is coming out, I'm trying to cover that stuff as well. But yeah, it's a really weird. It's been a weird year, or weird several years, I guess, where I never started to do this for any kind of like reason. I got a gaming headset for the PS4 when it first came out, and it was terrible. It was a Turtle Beach, um, and it was like 2 pieces of sandpaper on your ear, and the sound was like 2 trash can lids banging together, and I just hated it. So, thus began Painfully Honest Tech. Uh, Yeah, it's true. I mean, Tony's right. They took the weird stuff out of the stock UI, and for those of us who really want the weird stuff, we can get it back. But you can't control the phone with your eyes anymore. So there's that. I will say though that, like, for the S21 Ultra, the face unlock is the first face unlock that actually has unlocked my phone. It doesn't. I don't rely on it, but the fingerprint scanner is the best under the screen fingerprint scanner that I've ever used. And I've used a bunch of them since they started putting them in phones. And yeah, it used to be just really fiddly, but now this fingerprint scanner it's really like, if you hit it the right way, it's touch and go. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Look who we got. The man about tech, Viper in the house, hanging out. You know what? For old time's sake, we should bring Viper in here. I want to hear what Viper has to say about Winter Soldier. That's what I want to hear. So I know he's at work though, because he's got that work in life. Um, but yeah, good to see you, man. Good to see you, my friend. Um, Jonathan's at the point where he doesn't want to fiddle with the settings, uh, and I can understand that too. I mean, I think that both systems are getting better. I mean, Apple has always been that's always been Apple's sort of MO, is make it as easy to use as possible. The only problem is when when you make it easy to use, then you kind of tell people how to do it, and people who use Android don't like that sort of locked in feeling, and but I think Android, like, you can pick up an Android phone now, never touch the settings, and be in pretty good shape. Um, that wasn't always the case. I mean, I remember when I had the Samsung Captivate was my first Android phone, and Samsung Captivate, just to get it to work right, because the processor was so underpowered, you had to like go in and turn all this stuff off, and then, like, people were like uh, putting other ROMs on there and everything else. I mean, when was the last time somebody rooted their phone so they could put another ROM on? Uh, I mean, but it used to be that well, if you wanted any kind of real performance out of your phone, you would have to do that, right? Um, so yeah, it is very much the Windows versus OS 10 kind of thing, Um, and being somebody who uses both, like, I'm on a Razer Blade 15 here doing this, but over there is my Mac station, and I bounce back and forth between the two. And so, being somebody that uses both pretty regularly, I mean, Windows is a lot more intuitive than it used to be. Um, but there's still like, you can still get to the command line. You can get to the command line in the Mac as well, but what you do once you get there is something different. Um, but the thing that is interesting to me about Windows, I mean, on one hand, it's you can dig deep into all the settings, but there's still underneath the surface a lot of weird things that just don't make sense. Like, the way that Windows handles sound is in some ways really good, because you have all the individual sound sources, but then you have to pick them, and then you have to make sure, like, that both the mic and the output are set to be the default device. It can just get really, really weird. So I never, but it gets easier after time. Uh, yeah, there's still things under the hood with Windows that gets frustrating to me, and usually the Mac is pretty good at plug and play. Um, I don't have as many problems with that. Um, and Tony brings up the point that there's a lot of stuff that you can do with under the screen fingerprint readers, that little tips and tricks that you can get going to make it faster and more reliable. And as a reviewer and as a lazy person, I never wanted to have to go to extra effort to make a feature that is like one of the core features of a device work. Um, so I've just, like, kind of tried the under the screen fingerprint readers, and then if it didn't work right, I just gave up. I still I still really like the fingerprint reader on the back. The fingerprint reader on the back is, to me, it was always the most reliable. The only time it wasn't the most reliable is if you had your phone on the charger, like, or on the dash of your car, and you couldn't reach the fingerprint reader. That was annoying. But I still like that. I think that the power button, um, I think that the power button should be the place for fingerprint readers. I think that should be the case at this point. But when it comes to, so I see people are talking about the Samsung Apple thing. I Here's the thing. I don't think that either one are really competing with one another anymore. Um, it's it's the fact that they've done so well at making their competition go away. Apple was never really competing with anybody, in terms of like other companies running their operating system and trying to beat them. Apple was always like sort of their own competition. Um, and but they got out ahead and they stayed out ahead. Samsung is the company that seemed to be willing to do what was necessary to keep up with the pace of of the technology, to keep their phone to get their phones up to the same kind of level of just of people get mad when I say this, but to get their phones up to the level of quality when compared to Apple. I mean, you have to remember that when the iPhone 4, iPhone 5 were out, you had the S4 and the S5, which were still plastic phones, so they've done a great job over the years of going from sort of not the greatest build quality, and Android was super janky for many generations before it started to solidify. And now Samsung seems to be the company um, that that has really done what needed to be done in order to get people to buy and trust them, you know, one generation after the other to get new phones, right? I mean, and there are going to be outlier phones. Like Teo asks about the ROG phone here. Is the ROG Phone 5 worth it? Um, if you're a gamer and you don't care about the camera, I mean that phone looks like a beast. Um, and I would love to have one. I just haven't. I mean, the ROG phones have always been interesting to me. Um, I liked last year when they had excuse me. I liked last year when they had the cooling system that you could put on. So David says, I subscribe to your channel. Want to know a secret? Okay, what's the secret, David? Tell me the secret. Um, I'm afraid to know the secret. Um, how come phones aren't affected by the chip shortage? I can get an S21 or an iPhone 12 easily. That is a good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I have some guesses, right? So one of my guesses is that they know about how many phones they're going to make in a given year, right? So they order in batches. For the launch, and then for the next piece, and then for the next piece, and so it could be that they're taken care of. But I think, and I think what Capono is referring to here is, um, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was a factory in China late last year, mid like Octoberish, that caught fire and has been shut down. And a lot of companies are really struggling to get the chips that would normally come from those factories. I know, like on the audio side, there are a lot of audio interface companies, and companies like that got their chips from that factory and basically can't make their devices anymore. I mean, like Universal Audio, which is one of the most successful of the audio interface companies, has like jacked their prices by $400. Um, so yeah, it's a big thing. I don't really know why it could be that they're just coming from a different place. It could be that, yeah, but it's something that, after all the COVID stuff, after all the slowdowns, after all the stoppages, the fact that we haven't been talking about this chip shortage and this factory, burning down as much is really strange to me. Okay, so David's got his answer here. Okay, I have 274 phones. I got 6 new phones today. I upload every day. That is crazy, man. That is crazy. How do you have time for 6 new phones in one day and uploading every day? Because like that's crazy. But good for you, man. I mean, it's yeah, I'll definitely check out the channel because that sounds crazy. Um, I didn't see Jerry Rig Everything's Ben test on the ROG phone. So was it not good? Um, I mean, let's see. Tony says after seeing Jerry Rig Everything's durability test of the ROG phone, I couldn't go for it. He snapped the thing in half easily with his bare hands. Yeah, I like Zach. That's if you don't know, his name is not Jerry. His name is Zach. He's a really good guy. And I think that the whole durability test thing that he does with the phones is cool. I just wonder at some point, like, you know, would your phone ever be in a position to be snapped in half? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just the holistic like scratch test, bend test, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe that is ultimately good information. But yeah, having not held a ROG phone in my hand and not having seen it in person, really, I couldn't really say. But at the end of the day, yeah, I've been really impressed with how good um, the durability of phones have been. I mean, because for like the S21 and stuff, the materials haven't changed all that much. The material, I mean, it's still like glass and glass with a stainless steel or aluminum, sandwich meat. Um, and I I love to carry my phone outside of my pocket or outside of the case because I just love the feel of the phone. But the other day, if you guys didn't see on Twitter, I traded in 3 cars. This is a crazy story. I traded in 3 cars. I had a Chevy Volt, an Audi A4 2017, and I had a 2018, excuse me, Jeep Cherokee. And the Jeep was a mistake. The Jeep was a big mistake. The Audi I loved, the Volt I loved, but I went on Kelly Blue Book's KBB.com just to sort of get some pricing for what each of the cars would be worth. So I put in all the information, and then like 2 minutes after I got done, I got this phone call from a local used car dealer, and he's like, "Are you trying to sell those phones or those cars?" And I was like, well, I know I'm going to sell at least one of them because we have 4 cars right now, and there's only 3 of us. So, so he was like, "Well, whatever you want to sell, um, give me first dibs. I'm willing to make you a really good deal." And we ended up selling all 3 cars to this lot and basically paying off what we owed on the cars. And I got myself a giant Chevy Silverado, 2015 Chevy Silverado, 1500 LTZ. And so it's much taller. This is where the story actually begins. It's much taller, and I was wearing like loose sweatpants yesterday, and I went to get in the car, and I had the phone in my sweatpants pocket, and it just slipped out and fell. It seemed like 4 or 5 feet to the ground, and I was sure because it landed on a corner, and I was like, "Oh no!" Um, I I was just sure this phone would be broken, but the front and the back, not a scratch on it, nothing at all. A couple of little concrete nicks in the corner. Um, that kind of bummed me out, but no real damage. No real damage to the phone at all from that kind of fall, which surprised me. Oh yeah, I forgot that in in uh, in my Twitch thing, I change it in my in Restream, which is what I stream from. So Restream, one of the cool things about Restream is you can stream to like as many places as you want. So right now I'm streaming to Periscope, Twitter. Well, Periscope is Twitter. 2 Facebook pages, 2 YouTube pages, and Twitch. And Twitch has your title of what you're doing in there as well. It doesn't change, so I got to remember to go in and change that. But yeah, so it's been a crazy thing. Um, AOC goes by her initials. Have you thought of just going by JTL only? A lot of people just call me that. So I haven't thought about going by it, but that was the thing. Like, so in my intro for the channel, I say, "Hey, my name's Jason. Sometimes known as the JTL. This is Painfully Honest Tech." Well, the channel name used to be the JTL, and I had a YouTube channel because when you signed up to watch YouTube, you had to use your Google account to get in, and so you automatically got a YouTube channel. So that's just what I called it. And then I started doing videos, and the JTL didn't really say anything about the content, so I changed it to Painfully Honest Tech. But people still call me JTL. But yeah, AOC's got things going for her that I don't. She's a very attractive woman, and she's, I think we're both very very divisive people in how people take our opinions, I guess. But yeah. But yeah, I had people do call me that sometimes if I ever leave the house. Notorious JTL is what I'm going to use for my for my first rap record. Yeah, and Painfully Honest Tech is weird because it is definitely descriptive of what I strive to do with the channel, right? I don't want to do, the bullshit coverage that a lot of people do. But but he said but it also sets you up for this like thing where people are always judging you. People are always judging you on your honesty. Like, you're not honest. You're this, that, the other thing. So it's a double-edged sword, but I still think I like names that are descriptive of what the content is. So yeah. Both you and AOC are painfully honest. That is true. Yeah. So, some of the cross examinations that she's done in some of those committees that she's been on are painful. It's kind of like she asks these questions and people are like, you're not supposed to ask us like hard questions. So anyway, but we don't want to get too far into that. Although sometime today, I did see a news article that said sometime today, President Biden is announcing in as part of a bigger thing his plan to get broadband internet to everyone, which I think is a really good thing. I mean, we got Starlink that's going to be happening, but broadband internet is like the running water and electricity of the 21st century. Like, if you can't access broadband internet, then you're at a huge disadvantage. So anyway, that's happening today as well. But okay, we've touched lightly on the overall topic here and there. My question is to you as we get close to the end of the hour: is there a smartphone company that can come back and challenge Samsung and Apple for a position in the top 3? I mean, I know that we have Huawei and Xiaomi over in other parts of the world, and sure, I mean, they're selling tons of phones, but I think I think that most people look at it and they see Samsung and Apple, and everything else is dropping away. The Pixel never really made a huge run. LG is going out of the business. HTC is gone. Motorola is gone. And I'm talking from a flagship standpoint. Like 5 years ago, you could go into a carrier store and get a Motorola flagship. You could get an HTC flagship, or you could get an LG flagship, or there were lots of choices in terms of what flagship phones were out there and available to people on a regular basis. But now you walk into a carrier store and it's Apple and Samsung and Google's there, but they're not really challenging anything. And OnePlus, I mean, Matthew asks about OnePlus. Um, I just don't know, because we talked about this a little bit, I think Monday. The problem with OnePlus, the value proposition of OnePlus was, as Marquez Brownlee said, you get 90% of a flagship phone for 50% of the price. That was the value proposition for OnePlus. And when OnePlus started to put out more expensive phones, I feel like they just kind of lost their impetus. Like their reason for existing was to challenge the flagship manufacturers, and then once they became a flagship manufacturer, it just felt like they didn't quite measure up. I haven't used any of the more recent. I haven't used the 8 or the 9, and maybe I'll grab one, but um, I just don't see them. I don't see them really challenging, at least in the U.S. or in North America. Um, and yeah, Brandon's got a good point. I mean, OnePlus kind of speaks to their customers, but maybe what you mean is like their wider appeal isn't quite there. And when you have a flagship phone, or at least a phone that's flagship priced, so the OnePlus 9 Pro is over $1,000, and the problem with that is, if it can't stand up to like the big three: screen, well, maybe it's the big four: screen, battery life, um, camera, and speed, overall speed. Like if you fall down on any one of those, then you're not really competitive. Um, and I don't see I don't see OnePlus keeping up their end of the deal with the camera thing, even if they've at they could have just licensed Hasselblad's name. They could be using some of their technology. I don't really know what they're doing, but but yeah, from what I've seen of photos, they haven't been impressed. And in fact, I was there was a conversation on Twitter today. Danny Winget put up I think it was on Instagram. He had a OnePlus photo, landscape photo, iPhone, Samsung, and like 17% of the people who looked at those three pictures picked the OnePlus phone. And when you look at the photos, like the OnePlus picture was not a bad picture. It's just that I think that we've gotten so used to like high definition imagery with televisions and lots of contrasty poppy colors and stuff like that, that when we look at a picture that is maybe more true to the reality of what something looks like, it 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 doesn't look as good as the others that are maybe like getting that computational stuff going and making the more out of the photo. I think we've just gotten used to that. But yeah, I mean, we've got Motorola, Nokia. I mean, Nokia used to be the company, and back in, and then there's BlackBerry. So it's just yeah, it's just crazy. I it's I'm not saying that Apple and Samsung are on top of the the market forever because, as somebody said before, if a company like Tesla, I don't know if Tesla is going to get into the smartphone business, but if a company like Tesla came in and the next big phase for the smartphone is not the folding phone. The folding phone is it's like an in-between move. And whatever the next step is, I mean, Apple is already sort of moving in the right direction. I think Samsung might be a little bit behind the curve, but I think to me, the next direction is, your watch becomes the hub for more of an AR kind of experience with your communication device. So I really kind of think that the company that gets there first, that gets out of this form factor and into something that's different, just think about science fiction movies or science fiction books that you've read. Like, I always bring up William Gibson, fantastic writer, his whole his like Neuromancer and books like that, where people had like hard drive ports in their brain, in their heads, and they could upload memories or download memories and create more space. And they had headphones that were like attached to the bones inside their ears so they could get that bone conduction going. I mean, that stuff always fascinated me, and I think that stuff is going to happen. It's the it's the next step. And Farm and Tech is thinking about selling his Fold 2 for a OnePlus. I don't know, dude. I mean, you might be bored with the Fold 2, but I don't know if you'll be happy with the OnePlus. I could be wrong. But yeah, I was out of Best Buy yesterday. I had to return my M1 MacBook Pro, and so I was at Best Buy. And I went over and I hadn't physically seen a Fold 2 since I got rid of the one that I had. And when you open it up, it still has that really kind of like that wow factor, at least after you haven't seen it for a while. My problem was always that it was a little unwieldy to use. But yeah. Oh, we got a $2 super chat. Oh no, 2 great British pounds from KG Virtu. Can't believe you never used a BlackBerry. I had the BlackBerry Priv. I saw somebody mention the BlackBerry Priv, but I didn't really count the BlackBerry Priv as a BlackBerry because it was the first one to run Android, right? But I really liked that phone. The only problem was, for some reason, I don't know if it was the way that the software was working or what, it just wasn't fast enough, So I really liked it, but it seemed to bog down on itself too much to the point where it was difficult to use on a regular basis, and I started to get frustrated. And I actually think I traded the BlackBerry Priv in at the AT&T store and got a Windows phone. I got the Windows 1020, I think it was, whatever, the big thing that looked like a hot pocket. It was super huge, and I really liked that phone as well. But I couldn't get the apps that I used on a regular basis. So then the Windows phone was not a thing. So but I really liked the Windows Phone operating system. Really liked the Windows Phone operating system. I loved that sort of that flat design that they had. And I mean, the design of Android and the design of the iPhone have both sort of moved in that direction. But I loved that sort of flat 2-dimensional design. And it was just really cool. And I don't know why, Microsoft being one of the largest tech companies in the world, I don't know why they couldn't get people to develop for their phones. Maybe it was just like, well, we already got to develop for Android and iOS, and developing for another operating system is just going to be too hard. But now Microsoft came out with an Android phone that nobody wants because the quality's bad. I was really looking forward to like the Surface Duo. And then I heard all the initial reports of how underwhelming it was in terms of its overall quality. And that to me is a drag. You know, I was surprised that the Razr phone, the Motorola Razr with the folding screen, I was surprised that that didn't do better. I mean, they even after well they lowered the price to I think the lowest that maybe any folding phone has been, and it just couldn't catch on. But then again, I mean, I never saw one in person. Well, no, I did see one in person. I mean, I went to CES the year that it was coming out, and I saw it, and I put it in my hand, but I never saw one out in the wild. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know why that didn't catch on. Maybe it's just because they put like a second tier chip in, right? They put a 700 series chip in that thing. Um, so yeah, and Tony brings up Sony. Tony brings up Sony. Um, Sony makes really good phones as well, and why they've never gotten into the U.S. game in any significant way is really confusing to me. Because I mean, they're a huge corporation. They have products in all. They've got consumer tech products all over the place. Why didn't they get into carrier stores? I don't know. But I remember I've always been impressed when I've held one, and I know people that love them. But you know, um, so yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I hope that there's something out there that can challenge, that can keep challenging Samsung and Apple, because if they're if they're not challenged, and if it becomes sort of like, I think it was Fat Produce that said earlier, if it becomes this sort of like nickel and diming of, the phones are less and less and less and less and less for, similar prices, or people start buying the cheaper phones because the cheaper phones do everything that they need to do as well as they need them to do it, which is really already the case, then what we're encountering right now is sort of the slowdown of smartphones being, the tech that's driving the tech industry. What the tech is that's driving the tech industry is going to be after this, I'm not exactly sure, because it could be a lot of things. I mean, 5 years ago I would have said it was VR, but I don't know if it's VR. Um, it's Yeah, I don't know. And the problem with Xiaomi, I agree, Xiaomi is doing a lot of great things, Lynn, but the problem with Xiaomi is that, they have that same problem that Huawei had with, I think it's not so much that they're a Chinese company, it's that if I know that Huawei has ties to the Chinese government, and I think Xiaomi does as well, and that's the thing that's kind of like holding them back. Um, Tony wants a PSP, um, that works as well. If it worked as a second screen for PS4 and PS5, yeah, for mobile gaming that would be great. But I just think that Sony had the PSP and they didn't market those very well. They were cool things, but I don't know. I don't know if they're going to go back to it. I don't know if they will. I mean, at this point, I can't get a PS5, so so I want a PS5. I have tried so hard to get one. Well, I mean, I haven't been like, combing the internet daily, but when I follow a couple of Twitter places and, different things, and when I get an announcement that some are going live, I go. So last time I went to Best Buy, this was like Monday, I think. Monday or Sunday. I went to Best Buy, and and I got a PlayStation with the like a Miles Morales bundle, just a bundle with the game. I got it into my cart. I got into checkout, and I was like hitting the buttons because I already have all my stuff saved in there. So I was hitting the buttons to buy the thing, and by the time I went into checkout and then I came back out. For some reason, the PlayStation 5 had disappeared and I only bought the game. And it was so frustrating. You know, I'm not going to pay a scalper because you know, I know that I'll get one eventually. The thing is, like, I got an Xbox Series X, and I've had it for a few months now, and I don't play anything on it. So, um, yeah, but that's part of the problem. There is that I don't really give myself any time to play games. Bob's new retro computer arrived. What did you get, Bob? Ah, oh, and we got Hugo in the house. Hugo is in the house. Yeah, I think Eric Schumacher, he makes this point that mid rangers and budgets, older flagships are still excellent phones. Um, you know, I did a bunch of videos last year on phones that you could get renewed from Amazon Renewed, like the Note 9. Last year at around this time, you could get a Note 9 in just perfect condition for $350 from Amazon. And there's literally no discernible difference. I mean, I'm sure if you did a speed test or you really taxed it with some app or something like that, you would be able to tell the difference. But in day-to-day use, there was no real difference in using the Note 9 compared to the Note 20. And it was really, really telling because the smartphone companies have done a really good job of training us to want the new phone, right? Because, well, when smartphones first started out, each year the phones really did improve considerably. You know, like early on, Android phones were they were slow, they struggled to work properly, and as the chips got better and the operating system got more pared down, then they started to catch up. But now, for the past, I would say since 2018, smartphones have topped out. And the improvements that happen every year are not significant enough to say, like, oh, I have to have that, right? So I think what we're going to see is people are going to start to recognize when they go in to buy a phone, they're going to think like, oh, so Samsung's got a new phone. What does this phone do that the one that I'm just getting out of doesn't do? And when the answer is like, well, it's a little bit faster, the camera's a little bit better, and then they see this other phone that costs like half the price, they're going to be like, well, what about that one? They're like, well, that one's like probably about the same as the one you got right now. People are going to start to make those choices. It no longer has to be the fastest thing. And so once people start choosing to buy cheaper phones, then the market will flatten and flagship prices will come down. And then, I mean, there'll always be a market for flagship phones, in the sense that there will be a group of people like us, the people here in this stream and others, who will want the latest and the greatest and the cutting edge of whatever it is. So there'll always be that market, but I don't think it'll be as much of a market as it has been up to this point. I mean, I'm seeing across the board, and one of the reasons why I'm trying to like diversify my content again is that I see the numbers for smartphone. I see the views for smartphone videos like have really plateaued and are starting to go down. I mean, and and it also gets like, I love smartphones. I love talking about them, but at a certain point, it's time to talk about something else. But I just think that we're going to see the smartphone sort of slowly lose its like its top of the heap importance. So, um, just reading. iMessage is like I still use iMessage for like half of my texting. I just do it on the computer or on my iPad. Um, that's one thing that I do miss that can't be replaced with with an Android phone. I mean, it can. You can get WhatsApp, but then like everybody that you text on a regular basis also has to get WhatsApp, and that's not always feasible. Um, Looking for better sound on my phone. Buy used LG V30, Sony, and or DAC dongle. That is a good question, man. I think most people enjoy having the all-in-one device. Like you can get your music right there on the phone. The V series, like you can get V series phones. Like I think you can get a V50 for like $350 or less now. And the V50 is probably my favorite of the later models of the V series. So the V series might be the way to go. I mean, the only fly in the ointment there is if LG is going out of the smartphone business, then what's the support? And how long before it becomes a completely until it becomes a completely, well, it becomes an iPod. You know what I mean? So I don't know the Sony. I don't know the Sony players very well. Um, I might try like something like the Dragonfly dongles that people like a lot. I might try one of those before I went for a new phone with the iPhone. That would be my advice. Just given the fact that um, that LG is probably not going to be in the smartphone business for too long. I've used every V series phone except for like the V35 because I had the V30. So I bounce back and forth. And yeah, I still have my V50 and I keep it for the DAC. I don't know that Amazon's ever going to make another phone. I think Amazon, like, it took them a while to find their niche, and it's weird that their niche became what it is. Like, they created their own niche basically, but the Fire phone was not a good phone. So yeah, Bluetooth dongle might be better. It's a good point. Yeah, once your family gets on iPhones, it's more difficult to get away from the iPhone because of iMessage and FaceTime and stuff like that. Um, I'm just in the position. I'm in the good position of the fact that like I don't have, I don't make that many calls or send that many texts. So I can do it for a while. But anyway, folks, we're at 121, 122 minutes. And yeah, I try and keep these things somewhere around the 1 hour mark so that I don't burn out and I can still get a couple of things done in the afternoon. So I'm going to wrap it up here. You guys have been awesome. We've been just like flying. You guys have led the conversation. I really appreciate it. All of you guys who were able to super chat, thanks very much. Always not a necessary thing, but a very much appreciated thing. Helps me get through the day, and get stuff done. Jermaine, thank you. I appreciate the super chat, my friend. Everybody stay classy, tech geeks. Anyway, once again, my name's Jason, sometimes known as the JTL, and this has been the Painfully Honest Daily Show in which I talk about whatever. Until the